Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live. Talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynncullenshow@gmail.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Yeah, she lives, sorta. Hi. I'm sorry I've disappeared on you as I have, and I'm very happy to be back today. And I hope I'm not being overly eager to start things back up again. But I figured most of you would realize that I had a bit of a struggle with this thing called COVID. And I did. It started, it's so bizarre. Here's what I now know about it. Everyone has their own experience with it. And even though we like to comfort ourselves with the fact that most people do very well, don't have any lingering effects, make it through okay. And I'm hoping to join that crowd. But others do struggle and have scary moments and things like that. So, oh man, I shouldn't bore you with this, but I do want you to know that I'm still not particular. I mean, COVID is gone. I have been negative now for 4 days. What's not gone is the pneumonia that it kicked off. And so my lungs are not good, and I'm struggling a little bit with my breath. And that comes and goes and changes, and I've been steroided, which has made me insane, and that's about to end. And then we'll see if my lungs can sort of keep recovering on their own, which I certainly hope they will. I'm going to try not to exert myself too much. I don't want to appear to be without energy, but I am intent on sort of hanging on to my energy and not, getting. I hope I don't go into a full-blown rant, which would probably literally leave me breathless. So I'm just going to sort of tiptoe my way through here and see what happens. Having spent the last over 3 weeks essentially in isolation, somebody came and spent an hour with me at my home yesterday. It was the first human being who sat with me and talked, and it was amazing. One appreciates such interactions when you've been deprived of them. Anyway, I'm sorry. We'll just try to. I have to tell you, I did not pay any attention for. There was a week I was really pretty sick, and I paid no attention, read no news. It was very odd for me. At first, it's so my nature to, we all have routines. I mean, I jump into news as soon as I get up or become conscious. And I continued to do that for a while and then realized that there was no point to it, that it wasn't helping me in any way. And so I did finally stop. But it's odd that I really didn't know what to do with myself. I've read about 5,000 books, including one that I never would have read, but a friend dropped off thinking it would be just the thing. It was a Stephen King novel, which I would, again, normally not read. And it was about time travel, which I would normally not do. And it was about the JFK assassination, another subject I avoid. It was called 11/22/63, the date of the assassination. And it was 950 or 850 pages long. And man, it hooked me. I fought it for a long time, and then it hooked me. So I got into it, and I learned things about the assassination that I had not known. As I was reading the book, I thought, is that true? Was there a guy named? And so I'd go and Google it and find a whole other aspect to the Kennedy assassination that had eluded me all these years, even though it's been out there. I think it's a subject that I have really not, unlike my late great colleague Doug Hirth, who was immersed in it. I just wanted to avoid it because of the conspiracy theories, because of the inability to know facts from fiction, because of all the it just seemed so unsettled to me that the only thing that was settled was Kennedy's head had been blown off. That seemed like a kind of finality that was enough for me. So anyway, I'm going to babble. I have a feeling I can hear it. I'm going to babble. Feel free to babble back and or reach out. It'll be good to hear from you guys as well. Let me start off with some obits, seeing as I was thinking I was going to be in them at one point. There are three that caught my eye. One, actually today, which just was a gut punch. Very, very unhappy to see it. It's made me extremely unhappy. A great guy, a great character. His name, Nicholas Tallow, and he was affectionately known as Bomba. I didn't know him that well. How I knew him was he was a longtime employee at WQED TV, and he was the guy that was on the floor manager, the guy who was behind the camera or direct. He was the one that if you were on air, you relied upon, you interacted with, and he was just this amazing character. And his real claim to fame is that he was Mr. Rogers' floor manager. So all of those Mr. Rogers episodes were under, in part, some direction by Nick Tallow. And he and Fred had a just delightful relationship. And it would seem a strange one because Fred was, he was this, he was a minister, a swear word would never emerge from his lips. Not the same with Nick. But Fred and Nick were like, they bonded so over the years. I don't know if I'm making this up or not, but I have this sense that I think Nick there was a running gag with Nick like mooning Fred during, tapings. I don't know. I can't even imagine. And if you saw, and if you didn't, you should, that wonderful documentary, Won't You Be My Neighbor? I'm not talking about the Tom Hanks film, which I did not like, but Won't You Be My Neighbor is just an extraordinary documentary. And Nick figures in it, and you do see him interacting with Fred. He could make anybody laugh. You got a sense of, you wouldn't think by his personality that he would be the person to have this job that was like, extremely important and serious, because he was such a cut up. and just wonderful. The obituary says that he, and I didn't know this, he was in several George Romero films. I can't believe this. He was in Dawn of the Dead. He was in others. He was in Night of the Living Dead. He had a lot of other commercial and acting credits. I had no idea. And the obit says he was truly one of a kind and lived a full life of joy and mischief. Indeed, he did. Just an adorable, wonderful human being. Nicholas Tallow. Then there was this obit that has been in the obits, I think, for the last 2 weeks. And it's of an old woman. And I think she's a very old rich woman. It doesn't say that. Her name is Redora Donahue. And I think she might be of the Donahues that, did they create Federated Investors or something like that? Where, I think they're gazillionaires. Anyway, she's a nice looking older woman in her upper 90s. And she died. And I was reading her obit. She was married for 70 years. And here's the thing that blew me away. It's the only thing I'm going to share with you because I don't know that I've ever seen. I've never seen numbers like what I'm about to share. You know how they say, and she's, they give you a list of her survivors, and her list. They start naming names and then they give up because she had 13 children, and they do give all those names. But by that point, this obit is, it's getting long in the tooth, and they haven't really even gotten into her life. They're just doing the basic, family name stuff. So it said she had 13 children, and here's where they threw in the towel. 84 grandchildren and 168 great grandchildren. Have you ever? Now, I know she was a real heavy duty Catholic. And if I'm thinking right, I think I knew her house. And her house was near Mellon Park. And I think at Christmas, they had the hugest nativity scene you've ever seen. It was like Mary was like 12 feet tall, and it was just this huge thing. So I know her faith was central, and man, did she live fruitful and multiplied. 13 kids, 84 grandchildren, and 168 great grandchildren. Yeah, and it says here, Redora was a devout Catholic whose deep love of Jesus and his mother, Mary, showed through in her role as a mother. My God. Whoa. So there you have it. just blew me away. You know, as my relatively small family continues to add a great grandchild here and there for my mom, I find remembering. I mean, I think my mom now has what, 1, 2, 3, 4, four with I think 3 great grandchildren, and you know, you start forgetting names. You start with 3. I start thinking, and what was because these little characters make their way into the family, and in this day and age, they get names you've never heard of, so you don't necessarily easily remember them. And how the hell do you think that woman even knew the names of her 168 great grandchildren? Jeez. Okay, I got one more. The obits. I really did get into the obits. I felt very tuned into mortality. And this one it's not as great, but I loved the fact that whoever wrote this obit managed to capture the personality. So that, you know, you read obits and they're so often just dry, you know, just the facts, ma'am. And, you know, it's a life. It should be a wonderful story, a sharing of what made that person special. And, you know, there are not a lot of people, I guess, who are capable of doing that. So, you know, we should all be so lucky as to have somebody write our obituary that could at least capture us in a truly human way, in a way that made us seem unique. And whoever did Huck DeVenzio's obit did pretty damn well. I'm not going to go into a lot of it, but it's cute because it made me laugh a few times, and that's always good. I mean, just the first sentence out of the gate is great. After 75 years of unnecessary or unconscious risk-taking, Huck DeVenzio died as a result of Parkinson's disease, an ailment he was said to have suffered from, or at least heard of. I just, you know, right there, you love that. Sort of like you get a sense of him. There's sort of a middle finger to what took him out. And it goes on and on and on. It's cute. It talks about all these absurd things he did. He yodeled with a Swiss folk group. He performed on stage with Italian opera singers. He skydove, hang glided, got 1 vote for second team All-American basketball, played 1 intercollegiate tiddlywinks match, raced in America's Yacht Club Cup yacht, played 1 note on Atlanta's Fox Theater organ, wrote a comedy routine for Michael Keaton, and was applauded by the audience at the Luxor Theater. His creative output culminated with his 2019 Halloween costume, a peanut butter and jellyfish. How are you not gonna mourn the loss of Huck DeVenzio? And if his name was other than Huck, they don't tell you. It's because Huck sure sounds like it was just yeah, I don't think. And the other cute thing is, right at the end, he was a marketing manager. He earned a BS he never used from Cornell, earned a BA he never used from Pitt, got robbed by polite muggers in Venezuela, spent a night in a locked Australian airport terminal, Rather than sending flowers, please do something nice for friends, family, or a stranger. That's a great obit. David writes, Oswald did it all by himself. I think he did. I do. Every bit of evidence points in that direction. There's not a single bit of evidence pointing in any other. There were two people in the Clinton-Lewinsky affair, and quickly the entire world knew about it. The cover-up of a presidential assassination would involve who knows how many. And in almost 60 years, there's never been a credible witness offering a different testimony or evidence. The greatest mystery in American history was in fact solved that very day, with the guilty party in custody in roughly 90 minutes, though they didn't know it was him for a few more hours. Yeah. You know, his widow, Marina, is still alive. So, yeah, there's that. Well, it's a big news day today, I guess. I mean, it hasn't happened yet, but the January 6th committee holding its last public hearing this afternoon. It's a business meeting, they say, but they're supposedly going to vote on whether or not to suggest, well, that there be criminal charges brought against certain people, including potentially the unprecedented step of putting out a criminal referral of a former president. Now, you know, and we all know this doesn't have any standing. It's just something they would say, here's what we've learned, here's what we did, we cannot do this, but Justice Department, we are recommending that you take all this evidence we have painstakingly pulled together and knowing you're doing your own as well, that these people need to pay a price. So we'll see. I'm going to tune in and see if there's any news, big news broken. I don't know. And also, I guess tomorrow, the House Ways and Means Committee, which now has its hands on his tax returns that he's been trying to keep anyone from seeing for all his life, they've got him, and they could, in fact, release him tomorrow if you're into looking at his tax returns. We know that he's nowhere near the rich man he has always purported to be. He's lived, it's a house of cards, always has been. It's a grifter's existence. And of course, he's got the Justice Department going after him with the Mar-a-Lago, the cases, and I have to tell you, when I was not feeling very well at all, and I did see this absurd picture of him as a like superhero, and it said that this was something that he had put out, and I couldn't, you know, there are things that happen now that you cannot immediately take in and believe are true. A man who has announced he's running for president again, under all the dark clouds he is under, putting out this, did you even watch it? It was, I mean, does he have any sense of how he's humiliating himself? Of how pathetic. It's like, I'm looking at him and I'm looking at Elon Musk. And I'm hardly the first to say that there's so much overlap there with these two guys. The narcissism, the self-involvement, the thin skin, the lust for power, the lack of any emotional maturity, the acting out on a grand scale, unaware of how others are really perceiving them as pathetic. And yet, because they, well, in the case of Trump, I'll put it mostly past tense, they have yielded so much real, raw power. It's extraordinarily alarming. I've never been a big fan of what do they call them? Even the superhero, Marvel comic thing type. I just not me, not for me. And I know it's a huge genre, and a lot of people love it. But it's cartoonish. But the thing is, our reality now is often every bit as cartoonish. Elon Musk, in the last few weeks, has reminded me of just sort of a classic comic book, megalomaniacal villain with the capacity to do great destruction and with no concern about that, seemingly enjoying himself and the power he wields. And again, having no concept of himself. I mean, the pathetic, needy human being he is. And that these needy men like Trump and Musk, they just put it out there. You think of them as having such pride. How could you be proud? Could you be filled with pride and be willing to show yourself to the world to be so pathetic? And I guess it's because they don't get it. They don't even see it. They're, wow. Anyway, so I've been, the world is, it's been 20 years since I think started saying, I think we've gone down the rabbit hole. And wow, what did I know? Found this little scribble from a guy named John Gans. And he's feeling the same thing about the world. I'll just share it with you because I thought it was well written. Shortly after the election in 2016, a friend remarked to me, "It feels like the whole country has taken LSD." It's true. There's been something hallucinatory and psychotic about the past half decade or so. A sense of reality melting and a stomach-churning, vertiginous glimpse into the abyss. Sometimes it feels as if we are on the verge of entering a Who Framed Roger Rabbit world where cartoons will walk among us. A game show host, billionaire president, beloved by Nazis, living in a dark tower with his name stamped on it in Midtown. A black rapper turned Hitler lover. It's all getting so stylized as to approach caricature. Well, yeah, exactly. But, Trump's announcement at his latest attempt to shake down his credulous base with these $99 non-existent thingamajigs. If you listen to it, it was mind-blowing. He said at one point, you just keep giving him buy more. He says, and I'll also be doing Zoom calls, one-on-one meetings, autographing memorabilia. You buy 5, you get 1 free, and a chance to win who knows what. This is, how could anybody still? It's just, sorry. You know what? It's hard to be a relatively sane person right now in this world because everything does feel truly off. It's hard to keep your bearings when things seem so off. Here, another case in point. I mentioned, I think before I took ill, I mentioned that, the Germans are having a little problem with their own loons. And, they did this mass arrest in various places all over Germany of people who they said were armed and intent on overthrowing the German government. And at the time, they pointed out that these, again, right-wing nutcases, Hitler-loving nutcases, were also in the thrall of QAnon. Now, it's scary living in a world in which you can say that people are in the thrall of QAnon, which is as insane, clearly insane a construction. There are conspiracy theories that are very seductive because they sound plausible. They take facts and connect them in ways that seem possible, if not even in some cases probable, to somebody wanting to hear that. But QAnon sounds like a fever dream of a hallucinating psychotic. And that so many people, it's scary living in a world in which there's so many people are willing to say, yeah, that's it. That's it. I'm glad somebody finally explained what the hell's going on in this world. There it is. Thank God. Now understand it. And the thing about the German QAnon thing, it says here, this is in a New York Times piece, the QAnon lunatics there were contending that the German government had used a fake pandemic to derail a secret liberation plan led by President Donald Trump that would have restored the German Reich. And none of these people were in, mental hospitals. They were, in fact, a lot of them were like, there was like a doctor. They were professional people with, there was the prince who was these, oh dear. I don't know. I just don't know. I saw something in the Post Gazette, that scab paper. Do you think of those, so many of those workers have not been there. They've been on strike now for months. And who's there to talk about them? Who's there to give us the news of how that thing's going? My heart goes out to them. I don't know. There's so many scabs putting that paper out now. I hate to give it any credence at all. And in fact, I'm about to dump on them. Yesterday's paper, the Sunday paper, the big story above the fold, the one that was going to be sure to be read by more people. If anyone's going to see a story, it's that big story, Sunday paper above the fold. And the story, and I don't have it, but it was about how Pittsburgh's downtown is a scary place. And it was this big, long story about meetings with the mayor and others by business owners downtown who are squawking and screaming that it's never been this bad. They're very unsafe. There's people being shot left, right, and center. And it's all going to go down. And what the hell is the government going to do about it? And blah, 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 blah. And I read the story. And in reading the story, you come upon, quotes from, again, these freaked out business owners and quotes from the people who, deal with the crime, the cops and stuff. And what you find out is there's no uptick in crime downtown. In fact, it's at a relatively low point. There's more development going on there right now than has happened in some time. Restaurants, downtown restaurants have had their best year since the pandemic. People are coming downtown. So again, the facts were in total opposition to the headline, to the whole idea of this story of be afraid, be very afraid. And it was an exercise in journalistic flim-flammery that I was just mind-blowing. At one point in the story, some restaurateur darkly suggested, when told that in fact crime was no more than it ever had been, and in fact had been much worse, 8 years ago, 10 years ago. He said something to the effect is that didn't matter. It was the perception. if the perception is it's scary down there, then it doesn't matter if the reality is otherwise. And there's truth in that. But where does that perception come from? Who's putting it out there so that becomes the perception that people have? And I'll tell you, it's local media, local TV, and the Post-Gazette. And my sense is it's based on the usual white fear of black people. That's my sense. Because, you know, if you do go downtown, you do tend to see more black people. And a lot of people who go downtown, who work down there, or may go out to dinner, they encounter more black people in a few minutes than they have the entire week, right? Or 2 or a month. And they're scared of them. It's racism, folks. That's all it is. It's racism. How easily these suburbanites are scared. How easily. I can't imagine living in such fear of your fellow man. I cannot. How awful it must be to be walking down a street and seeing maybe 2 young black kids walking towards you and to actually feel threatened as opposed to feeling nothing, as opposed to taking in that there's 2 people walking toward me and thinking nothing. I cannot imagine living like that. And then we're supposed to all give credence to this racially charged fever dream, promulgated, egged on, underscored by breathless news reporting. Now, I will tell you this, in all honesty, something I do not like about downtown. And for that matter, what I don't like about a lot of the intersections in the East End, where I live. And that is the beggars. I'll call them beggars. The people with the signs. I don't like it. I'll tell you why. Because it makes me so unhappy. It just makes me so damn unhappy. The visual, the real reminder that there are people among us who are living in such precarious situations that they have to beg. I don't feel threatened by them. They just make me so damn sad about what do we do and why aren't we doing more? This is not a problem that can be helped by me, and I give all the time. You know, giving someone here, giving someone there. For some reason, I pass that one, but then I give the next one. What is wrong with us that we are incapable of figuring out a way to care for those most in need? I don't understand it. So yeah, that, if I have my own thing, it's I hate the reminder. I hate being brought down by their situation, and there they are. And when I did the show on Smithfield Street for so many years, I mean, you get to know there are people. There was a guy who lived in a doorway, pretty much across from the big, huge office building I did the show in. He lived there. Oh, welcome to Dickensian England. You would think we would have gotten a little bit better. And the reaction of so many is just fear. Not a desire to help, but fear. They don't have anything. I got stuff. They're going to take it. All right. Well, I got to tell you, I'm starting to feel a little beat. And I think, I've gone almost 45 minutes here. I'm going to listen to my body. I'm going to share one more thing with you, and then I'm going to call it a day. Because I'm just feeling beat. This, I make fun of it all the time. Nextdoor, that app where you can, neighbors rat on other neighbors, squawk about people not picking up dog poop, tell about, watch out for this suspicious guy. It didn't used to be that way. It's like half of Nextdoor now is people like spying on their neighbors all the time with their friggin' doorbells and cameras. And I so hate it. Everybody just, you can see how you end up in fucking East Germany before you know it. People. So anyway, on Nextdoor, there was some woman maybe a week ago. She was bitching and moaning about how there were no in Lawrenceville, there were no holiday decorations. Some of the merchants had put up a few lights here and there, but there was no neighborhood concerted, decorations as there had been in the past, and they mentioned as Bloomfield has, and what's wrong with our neighborhood and what's going on, and it was just a general, bitch, and oh my God, people jumped on it, got on it, and some people said, it costs money to do that, and there's a lot of other needs right now, and if you got that stuff, it's got to be stored, and somebody's got to be responsible, and it used to be, and who knows, there were some people trying to be like reasonable about it, and others, seeing it as a sign of the end of Western civilization. And people started talking about how it used to be in Lawrenceville. And one guy, his name is Robert, he just wrote a memory that I found so vivid, so lovely, so unlike what you see normally on Nextdoor, that I thought, oh man, I'm going to share this. And it's clear he's talking about probably the early 1950s, I think. So here's what Robert wrote. I'll share it with you. I grew up on the 5100 block of Butler Street, above my dad's meatpacking company. Across the street was Allegheny Valley Bank, an old shut-down theater, and an appliance store that had TVs in the window. People would gather in front of that store to watch the TVs. The owner even installed a speaker so that passersby could hear as well as see the marvel of the age. I spent hours at my bedroom window just watching life go on. One night, close to Christmas, I watched the snow falling. It was dead silent, and the street was trimmed with colored lights from pole to pole along each side of the street. The only people out that night were gathered in front of the appliance store, watching TV in the falling snow. That experience is forever etched in my mind and is one of the most cherished. Isn't that wonderful? I'm going to leave that with you. And I do intend to be back tomorrow. I'll have Susan to spell me a bit. She's in better shape than me. My brother has, everybody else has, is back to normal. It's just me falling into the asthmatic pneumonia nonsense that got me screwed up. So I'm just going to, I'm going to go lie down. It's been fun being back, and I'll see you tomorrow. Be careful out there.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Thursday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.